we live?
Nobody there.
Nobody there. Wow, I'm talking to myself. Well, um, this is Breaking the Silence, and welcome to the post-premiere chat that we always have. And I guess the movie scared the hell out of so many of you that you decided not to show up. I don't know.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy. The camera's here and the screen is here because we're at home, and yeah, you can see we're at home. See? So anyway, I am highly disoriented right now. So I'm going to. I'm glad you loved it. You're the only person here right now. We're going to wait a beat or two because they're used to me, I think, starting the intro, which isn't on this machine. So it's transferring from the other one. We got Hi White Dragon. I'm waiting for people to get in here because they didn't have an intro because it's on the other machine. And it's transferring now at a very slow rate from one to the other, but we're not going to run it because I've decided to talk. Hey, Dave. Thanks for coming in. You guys are used to having more time to get in here, I understand, because usually I run the intro. So I'm waiting for everybody to get in here. I have to remember to look at the camera because it looks weird when I look over here. I'm looking at the screen right now. So, yeah. Well, I'm glad you liked it. Oh, yeah. I worked really hard on the audio, on the film. I worked hard on everything, but the audio I was very pleased with. And if you watched it on a laptop or an iPad or your phone, then you missed half the movie because half the movie is the sound. There's a sound that happens when the ship starts to come over the lighthouse and he's sitting inside that will vibrate your whole house. Especially your subwoofer will dance across the floor. And of course, the storm, too, is very solid. I got sound effects from a place called freesounds.org. And they're kind of a community sound dump where people record sounds for movies and they dump them there for everybody to use. And I'm very appreciative to them. Oh, no, it's always separate, Dave. So still waiting for a few more people to get in here, and then I'll share some stuff with you.
Oh, Melinda.
Melinda, hey, Melinda. I was pleased with the film. I mean, I think some people think that I probably used AI, and I didn't put that at the beginning of the movie like I usually do. I'm getting tired of doing it, but I don't use AI at all. There wasn't any AI in that film. Everything's done the way we do things for big movies. You know, we use well, it's computer animation, so we make the wireframes, we make the models, we make everything you see, and we bring it to life and color it and texture it and animate it and make it work. And yeah, you could have AI do these things for you, and it would save you a hell of a lot of work. But the problem with AI is that it's not your work, and it just looks like no matter what AI I see, whether it be film or stills, it looks like the same artist did the work, and the same artist did AI essentially. And so when I make a film this way, it's all hands on. It's all hands on. And meaning that I design every scene. I move the cameras. I make the camera moves. I choose the lenses for the camera. I choose the lighting for the camera. I decorate the set, like the whole inside of the lighthouse and everything is all set decked. I have to hang pictures on the wall. I have to put things on tables and dress it. I do the art direction. And then the animation is done using motion capture, both from my face and both from a body, and then that's applied to the characters. The UFO itself, the big ship, I built that all myself in Blender, and also built, of course, the praying mantis creatures, which were first made for Judy's episode, and I made those in Blender, and because I had them and they're very creepy. I had lots of animation for them. They worked out perfectly. The whole interior of the spacecraft was entirely made by myself. And it goes on and on and on. So you put all those elements together. In with this film, I had the idea, and Mary really liked it, and we said, well, that's going to be the next film you do. And I was going to write a script, but I decided, well, why write a script? I mean, it's all right here. So I knew the whole story. I saw it all. So I just did the first scene, and that was him inside the lighthouse in the morning with the clock ticking. And I did that. And I said, well, gee, he's looking out a window. What does he see? And then I made the camera go through the window, and I came outside. And then it was important to show the audience where he was. He wasn't, some lighthouses are just on the coast, so you could get away from them and run inland. He is in an island in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the ocean, by himself, totally isolated with a big storm coming. So I needed to establish that. And it went from there. I just went from one scene to the next. And okay, now this is the scene where he goes down the hallway, he goes upside. It just was all stream of consciousness from the story I had in my head. And I've never done that before, not really quite like that way. And I wondered if it worked, if it was an experiment. And it did. It worked out very well. I don't know if the rest of the films I'm going to be making will be done that way, but some of them may be. Because the thing about having this magic box down here, that I saw years ago being a reality, is that it's got to the point where a filmmaker doesn't need the studios, doesn't need somebody's money, doesn't need cameras and lights and logistics and locations and just everything that goes with making filmmaking, which makes it so hard for an artist to just do a film. This magic box has done that. We're finally to a point with our software where you can literally, one person single-handedly can make a movie like you just saw, which means that anything you come up with in your mind, you can turn it into film. Now, granted, yes, you need to have a pretty expensive desktop computer, and you have to know how to use the software. But most of the software is free. All the software that I'm using, Blender and Unreal Engine, they're free. And there's a misconception if they're free, they can't be that good. But that's certainly not true, because I think the movie was named Flow. Was it Flow? That won the Academy Award for Best Animated Short or Animated Film. And that was all done in Blender, which is open source and free. And that's what I've used and use. So the open source free programs are every bit as good as anything you pay for. And that goes for DaVinci too, the editor. But I have paid for DaVinci because then for $300, one time only, you own it. Not like Premiere where you pay that $50, $60 every month. You own it and you own all the updates. So every time there's an update, and I found that DaVinci was superior in every way to Adobe Premiere. Its After Effects are better too. So we've reached a point where if you've got a few $1,000 to invest and you got time to invest in learning how to use the software, which is not that difficult, at least it doesn't seem that way to me, you can just make a movie, period. Just sitting right here where I'm sitting now, which is where I made that film. So to me, that's miraculous. I saw it long time ago, 30 years ago. I looked ahead and I definitely saw what we reached today. So now, I think a lot of people came in late last night to Mark Sims' appearance. Is that squeaking sound? Anyway, and probably missed what I shared with you, which was one of the most moving experiences of my life, more so than that even of visitors coming into my bedroom as a young child. And I talked about it at the beginning. And I talked about what it did to me. I was talking to Whitley about it today and Mark. But Mary and I have been listening to the Telepathy tapes podcast. You know, you've heard me talk about this before, but I'm dead serious. The telepathy tapes, beyond a shadow of a doubt, prove that telepathy exists. It proves that our consciousness exists outside of our brain. It proves that our consciousness is much more powerful and much more intelligent fully out of our bodies than in our bodies. And they go into a lot of progressively, bit by bit, why this is. And it starts with children who are autistic and they're non-speakers. And all their life, for the most part, they've been treated like vegetables or retarded people. The people doing it didn't know they were in there, didn't know that not only were they intelligent, they had much more use of their intelligence because they were primarily existing outside their bodies. So I really can't recommend them enough, but I warn you, if you listen to these tapes, it's going to change your life. But for me, we've been listening to them, and we listened to the 10th show, which was kind of the final one, right up into like 5 minutes before I was to go on the air to do the show. And there's this place that these kids all go and have been going called The Hill, where they could be miles away from each other in different states, and they know each other because they all meet in this one location they call The Hill. Telepathically, they are there. They
protected.
And it's protected. Well, that's a whole other story, Mary, too. But I was so emotionally moved by it, and the show ended in the last tape, and I had this thought, and I felt this strength in the thought that I wish I could see The Hill. I wonder if I can go there. And in that instant, I was there. And they knew I was there, and they asked me how I got there. Or no, I think it was, what are you doing here? How did you get here? And I said, because I am with you. And I just came snapping out of that, and I lost control of my emotions, and I cried, and I felt so. It wasn't just I was moved or my mind was blown. Something happened. Something snapped. Something triggered. Something was different, and everything, even today, just seems so different to me. It's like I'm disassociated, or what's the other word for it? It's like a euphoria. It's just not going away. So something truly happened there that was so amazing. And it's part of all of us. It's not unique to people who have special abilities or people who have had close encounters like we have, because these two subject matter aren't just associated. They're the same. And on top of that, I've been reading Simon Bound's book. And this book literally dovetails with what we've been hearing in the telepathy tapes. And I'll hold it up again for some of you that are new. Go to Amazon if you have an interest in this, and you should. because it directly affects you, and it directly is related to the close encounters phenomenon. Once you see the telepathy tapes or hear them, and you read Simon's book and other books like it, but Simon's book in particular, because in both cases, in the telepathy tapes and in this book, they prove and verify that these things are real. They don't just, it's not just hearsay. You'll find out why when you listen. But Simon's book just so well dovetailed with it. And here's the thing. I know that many of you here probably have had near-death experiences or out-of-the-body experiences. In my case, I had a near-death experience because someone who died pulled me into it that I was close to and that loved me. And then I did a show about it. And there is an association with autism to all of us, it would appear. That whole thing about feeling special and different, like you don't fit in and you're not part of this place or this reality or even this body. Because I talked about that in the opening of last night's show. I remember the first time you realized that you were conscious in this body and you looked down at yourself and in the mirror and were shocked. Well, I do. I don't know if everybody does, but I do know that many of you do. And it could be that a lot of us are autistic, which is not a bad thing, not at all. And that may have something also to do with the fact that we have these experiences and we have these abilities, and we sometimes feel we're telepathic, and because we are, and we have the abilities to read and sense things that are above that of the average person. It's not that we are more intelligent than everyone else. It's that we have more use of our intelligence because we're different. Because the brain is so limiting to intelligence as we exist as a physical being. Now, all this I have learned slowly but surely through time, and more recently through the telepathy tapes and Simon's book, studying near-death experiences, but I always knew it. And I think that was the biggest shocker of them all was, I'm listening to telepathy tapes and I'm hearing people talk about things that I thought I only knew. Sound familiar? Remember the book Communion? And these are people I don't even know, I've never met before, that are autistic and telepathic and can literally 100% of the time always get everything they're remote viewing or telepathically reading from your mind 100% accurate. It's been tested and proven over and over and over again, repeatedly, to the point of boredom. And then the telepathy tapes go into this next level, which is about how they feel that they're more consciousness than physical, and what that means, and the fact also that they see light beings, other non-human type intelligences, and their families and everything that have passed on, all in the same breath. It's so validating, so verified, and at my point, at this stage of my life, it's just like, wow. So the visitor experience, and I won't say this is for all of us because I don't know that. I can't know that really, but some of you have had terrifying experiences, and we have to kind of look at that and wonder why it's terrifying. Maybe there are legitimately bad actors coming here. But the thing to know is that all this intelligence, no matter how advanced it is, what planet it's from, what their technology is, when we're all shed of our physical form, as is said in Susan Alloway's Contact with the Greys, and the Grey said, well, I am you and you are me. We are all the same. That makes perfect sense. And if you're familiar with Philip Corso, and his book and who that man is. Look him up if you don't. He said something at the end of his life. He said, "It's a new world if we can take it." And I wondered for a long time what exactly he meant by that. And I thought, well, maybe it meant that, the visitors are going to reveal themselves and it's going to change the world and all that stuff. But that's not what he meant. I got what he meant finally. And it's so far beyond alien creatures from other worlds and spacecraft that it really changed me. So, yeah, it is a new world if we can take it. And we have to take it. Because these autistic children that are non-speakers, they're spellers. One of them talked about how we have to become the new human. So if you're not curious by now and interested in looking at the telepathy tapes and reading Simon's book, you're never going to be. So do yourself a favor. None of us make money off our books. Oh, okay. That's not true. I think what?
I think Whitley does.
But something is, but my book, but something is there, and Vaughn's books and everybody else's books have been published on Amazon for quite a while. And I always laugh when I get a royalty because it's like $1.38, this and that. And yeah, a lot of people have read the book and it's in the thousands and stuff, but we really don't make any money off of them. And none of us really did it for the money. We did it to share our experience and our exploration of all this amazing stuff with you. So, and besides, the book's cheap. It's $17. which is wow. I think it's a steal. So yeah, so as of 5 minutes before yesterday's show, I'm just not the same. It's not bad or anything like that, but it's just I'm trying to adjust to this. And then last night, and that's the other thing, dreams. Last night in my dreams. Okay, dreams. These kids talk about, now you got to understand, these kids have more experience with being out of body, being conscious entities, and being telepathic than most humans ever will have. And this same child that talked about the new human talked about the delta state. The delta state is when you're in your deepest point of sleep. And this is the time when you are the most out of your body, when your consciousness is the most removed from your restrictive brain, which means that you are wide open to all those things around you in the astral plane and in this plane all at once, which could create for you very confusing dreams that don't make sense because you can't make sense of them because you don't know what's happening to you. So I've been making an effort lately to really focus, because when I'm dreaming, for lack of a better word to describe it, I'm in another existence. It's as real as here. And it's been that way ever since I was a kid. And sometimes dreams are foggy and I don't remember, but overall, that's not the case, and especially lately. And what's really interesting is that I'll be with people I've known and I haven't talked to for a long time, or people that have passed on, like my late wife and friends and family. But they're not dead. They're still very much alive. And where we are, where I'm with them, there's a house, and there's day and there's night and there's the sky and all the things that we know in this plane are there. Thank you, Mary. Nothing like water. And so as I'm reading through Simon's book, and because I hadn't quite finished it by the time I did the show, but I'm really going through it now. There are people from all walks of life, all different points in the world, from all different times, from the 70s to the 80s, the 90s to more presently, that have had these near-death experiences, and they are all consistent. And their descriptions of the astral plane are consistent, and they don't know each other, and it's not some big plot, to convince you that there's life after your brain ceases to function. And so this is, to me, the most important time in my life, in my journey with this experience, which started with the book Communion, which could not have been a more appropriate title ever if you look up the true meaning of communion. Okay. I felt like my astral self went flying around last night. What in the world is happening at the moment? Well, I don't know, Benno. It's us. It's not something happening externally to us or around us. It's not, the grays or the visitors, shifting us and moving us into something. They've given us the kickstart a long time ago. And we either stuck with it and really explored what happened to us and what it meant to our soul and our spirit and our consciousness, or we didn't. Or we just looked at it strictly as something frightening and done against our will, and that was our perspective, and then never went any further. But if we evolve with it, then yeah, it will be a new world if we can take it. It'll simply start to evolve and shift and change as consciousness. Because the thing about consciousness is, and as it's been told to me, is that it has no end. There's no birth and there's no death to consciousness. We have always existed. I mean, try to imagine non-existence, a point where you didn't have any consciousness. I can't do it. I never have been able to do it. So that would mean that to me that it couldn't be any other way. Did I see what, Mary?
Judy said.
Does anybody mention kind of like a layered cake? Yeah. Well, it's the old deal with the hologram. And if you break a hologram, the old holograms that we used to have back in the 60s and 70s, which I still have. I love those things. If you break them and then they shatter and you look at the individual pieces, the whole is still in each and every piece. So
Great, Benno.
You're welcome, Benno. You're welcome. So that's what I've been going through. It's like, yeah, the beings in the house and the blue lights and all that kind of stuff is kind of waddled down, and it's like it's not. I think it's just not necessary anymore, because once you figured out that you're plugged in and connected, then it's always on tap. And then you have to incorporate that into your life, because you just can't stop living on Earth because you have this new awareness. It's not even new. It's just you're aware of who you are once more. And it's kind of hard, because it's like when there's a death and your consciousness is so shifted from that loss, and then you go out into the real world and people are laughing and everything's going on as usual. And well, that's how this is. And they don't know. They don't realize they're asleep. They're still on the blue pill, whatever you want to call it. So we have to navigate that, and we have to navigate it with compassion, which can be trying, because it can be so frustrating. You try to tell people it's like these kids, these autistic kids that are telepathic. It's like, they're crying out inside for someone to listen to them. And Mary brought that up this morning. We have speakers, we have non-speakers, we have spellers, which are the non-speakers. And then we have listeners and non-listeners. Mary, could you close that door, sliding door?
Okay.
The house next door to us is for sale, and people over there slamming doors and talking loudly. And I have always been bothered by what a dear friend of mine who passed on not too many years ago used to call other people's noise. That's always been a problem, and it's so distracting, and I have such a problem with it. And that's one of the trademarks of autism, I found out, and also of these kids. And it's one thing if it's your noise, it's your music, but when it gets interrupted by a commercial from YouTube and it's loud and screaming in your face, it's so jarring to me that I have a real hard time with it. And that's that world that's asleep and doesn't know what you know. And that's why it's so trying. And we have to be as compassionate and as we can possibly be. Today, we're at this protest, the hands-off protest, which is nationwide. It's huge. If you go look at the news, go look on the internet, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people are out there in all parts of the country just filling the streets against the administration, the current administration. And I forgot what I was going to say, but I lost my track. That's how this whole thing that happened yesterday is affecting me. And anyway, we went to the protest. It was wonderful. Everybody felt this connection, and it was very peaceful, and nothing like Fox News will try to tell you we're all about. Oh, that's what it was. Came back to me. What really got me was that people, not many, I would say 98.9% of all the people driving by, being a little slowed down in traffic and stuff by our presence, were honking their horns at us, giving us thumbs up, holding up signs of respect and praise for what we were doing. And out of those 98.9% were maybe 2 or 3 people on the other side who were flipping us off and saying nasty things to us. The response from the crowd was, "We love you." And they kept saying that.
It was wonderful.
And that was what I was trying to dovetail into, from having these experiences, knowing the world's different and these people don't realize it, and having compassion for them and realizing that they don't understand. I'm guilty of it. I've always been guilty of it. I've always had a problem with people not being able to critically think and have more awareness of who they are. And it's fading. It has to. So this has been amazing past couple of days for me. And it's also kind of changing the direction of our show somewhat, but not really. As Mary called it, it's a convergence, and she wrote about it. We were always suspected that life after death, UFOs, extra-dimensional beings, non-human intelligence, ghosts, and all the rest were all the same thing. We're all connected. And many, many people in the various communities dig their heels in and resist this, as much as they resist and deny the evidence for autistic kids who are telepaths, despite all the scientific tests that were done to prove it. They resist accepting it. And that's just human nature, I guess. So I've never seen you changing the subject. I've never seen you so quiet in chat before. I take that as a compliment. I was so far removed from that film when it premiered today. I hadn't seen it in a while, and usually you guys are chatting all down the side of the screen, and it was like you could hear a pin drop. So I guess I sucked you in, and thank you, because I'm glad you enjoyed the film. And some people are testy about this subject matter. They got mad at Whitley and me when we were laughing and cutting jokes the other time we were on the show. and and some people got mad if I did something like The Invited that wasn't based on an actual case. It was just fiction. You shouldn't do that, I was told. And I thought this is about the real thing, and you need to be more serious. But I'm a filmmaker and I'm an artist, and if you shut off in that film because it's too scary and spooky and full of booze, then you miss the ending. It was a happy ending, wasn't it? They saved his life. That island was going to be flooded completely over by a giant wave, and they came and saved him. So they're not bad guys. And they will always be that way in my films. And I like to end on a happy note always. I might take you through an adventure, and it might be scary, and it might be creepy and dark even, but there was plenty of light at the end, and that's always a good thing. So I don't know what the next film is going to be. Mary had an idea she gave me, and but I need to take a little break and think about it before I do another one. Right now, I'm working on Steve's. This gentleman from Florida contacted us, and he didn't know how to express what happened to him, and so we said, look, call us, or we called him. Steve, it's something we all can do. The trick is recognize that we are doing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Totally true. Because the first thing that happens is you deny. When you hear a thought come into your head, a really good test of this is White Dragon, I have found. So I'll be in a group of people, and I'll think to say something, and then this is how I first noticed it, and then I didn't say it because I didn't want to interrupt the other person. And then one by one, or one of them, or two of them in the group will say exactly what you were going to say. And you could say, well, it was just a topic you were talking about. And that was just a coincidence, and that was the natural occurrence in that conversation flow. But sometimes, and most of the time, it will be something contrary to the topic we're talking about. Some thought will come into my head, and I'll think, oh, yeah, and then they'll bring it up, or Mary will bring it up, or I'll bring it up when Mary decided not to say something. And what I noticed is if you thought something and immediately shut it down and didn't continue thinking about it, you don't try to send a thought, you just have the thought, but you don't say it verbally. Someone will pick it up. But they've been taught that telepathy is not real. So they think it's their thought. Or they might think, I didn't really hear that. That's just my imagination. And I think, you're right. You're White Dragon. Absolutely. And we have to realize that. One of the people in Telepathy Tapes was saying you have to recognize the synchronicities, that they're very important and very powerful. When something's synchronistic and you have that moment, there's much more to it than just, chance. And that's part of it too. Some people use meditation, self-hypnosis to put themselves into a state where they can use telepathy. But I find that you can send a thought. I had an experience with Mary's granddaughter, Elena, in the kitchen one day. I was washing dishes, and they were staying with us for a while here. And I was telling her about psychic cards. And she's a very intelligent young lady. She was about 8 then, I think. And she was 8. 9. Okay, she was 9. And she listened to everything I said, and then she disappeared, and she came back into the kitchen, and she had made telepathy cards on paper and had them. She wanted to see if I could I could see what was on them. And every time she did it, she'd look at a card and tell me I'd get it right 100% of the time. Because what I did was the minute she looked at the card, is I'd see it and I'd just say it. There was one time I failed, and that time was when I thought about it too long. And I didn't trust myself and said it was an X when it was a 1 or something else. And I explained that to her. And then we did it with her, and she was pretty good at it. But whenever she hesitated, she got it wrong. If she immediately, what's the card? It's a 2. It's an O. It's a star. If it was done that quickly, she always got it right. And I always got it right. Whitley said to me today, he said that we all unlearned as experiencers of the visitors. We all, how did he put it to me? Where's my phone? It was.
You need your phone?
Yes, please. This was really interesting because Whitley and I, we talked back and forth throughout the day, and we both have this stuff going on. He also made it to the hill twice. He said, you have unremembered telepathy. All abductees do. That's why you felt such a need to participate, knowing that others can do it consciously, set off all kinds of emotions. That was certainly true. But I also, I felt them, and I felt this. I can't describe it. There are so many things that just defy description using our primitive language as a way of communicating. And it is primitive too, and it's limiting. Because there's so much more you can express through feeling and imagery telepathically than you ever can this way. And I guess that's why I love making films so much, because I can't, it's hard for me to write stuff sometimes. It's much easier just to go and show it. And now I can do that. I mean, it's only going to get better from here. The ability to make film, to express yourself as an artist. And Mary and I were talking about that too the other day. Mary brought up that, many of us are artists, and that's all connected with this as well. Because we're expressing our emotions, our vision, our imagination, our creativity through art, whether it be painting, sculpting, making films, writing stories. It's how we express ourselves, which suggests highly that the people who have these experiences are very, very special. Or not special, but we have abilities that are different than other humans. I want to go back to Steve, which I started to talk about. Steve, we called him. And Steve, just matter-of-factly, told us about this experience he had sitting out on his porch in front of his house. He was having an argument with his girlfriend at the time, and he went out to have a beer and sat in the porch, and this humming, pulsating sound started going through him, and it made his whole body tingle. The next thing he knew, there was this enormous triangle shaped ship coming through some sort of veil in the sky, just like it came through a black curtain with stars. And I'm not going to go too much detail because I want you to see the show that's coming up in about 2-3 weeks. And Steve, the way he told the story, it just was breathtaking, because here's a guy who's never been involved with UFOs, never thought about them all his life, hardworking person, has family, got a daughter, And his whole world in that instant, that moment, changed forever, and changed him and who he is. And that's what the next Breaking the Silence episode is about, the new story. And the trailer goes up tomorrow, so you can see it. And he shot it on his cell phone, sitting in his car at just after sunset. It keeps getting darker and darker. The video quality is not very good, but that's okay, because we don't cherry pick, and we want everyone to tell their story. And if they send us bad video, as long as we can hear them, we can see them a bit, and we can hear the sound and tell the story, I'll do the rest. I'll fix it up. I'll visualize what you saw. I hope you are enjoying making these films. You seem to be enjoying it. Brenda? Yeah, I am. I do enjoy it. It's something I've always been with. I've always been a filmmaker all my life. So I didn't get to do it as much as I wanted in my Hollywood career, but I was always around it as a visual effects person and an actor. So thank you. So I think you're really going to find Steve's new show really not unique, but just fascinating. He's a fascinating guy. He made a model of what he saw, and then after that, when he sent me the video, he sent me all these drawings, and I remember him telling me about the symbols he saw. He kept seeing symbols in his mind, and he was drawing them down, and some kind of language symbols and other symbols with like a swirling galaxy with eyes in it, and just all this interesting stuff, which all seemed very familiar somehow. There's a reason for that, if you really think about it, especially in light of what I just spoke of. We're all connected. We're all connected to that big database of knowledge that we all have from experiencing all these lives and then recording it forever. So I asked him, you talked about what you saw that night and how you lost 6 hours. And you thought it was only a few minutes. What about the drawings and stuff you sent me? So I'm waiting for him to send me some more video on that. Yeah, but people next door, they don't know how to close the door. They slam it so loud that it literally sends a shot of adrenaline through me and scares the dog. I don't understand it, but there it is. Got to have compassion. Anyway, so I'm really looking forward to that. We are going to do another communion letter. Mary and I are talking about that now. The one that she wants to do is the people in the trees, which is one of your favorites, which is a real challenge for me. And Mary's saying I should mostly illustrate it, do drawings. I just did recently 2 book covers, one for Yvonne Smith for the re-release of the Coronado mass abduction. And as soon as I get permission, I'll share the images I did from both the authors. It's a beautiful cover. I worked real hard on it, and it just embodies that whole night. The other one I did was for this case that happened, I think, in 1978. Not very well-known case, but that's the reason that the gentleman's writing the book, and it's going to be published, and it's an amazing case. I did a book cover for that. And that was a painting. Yvonne's was I did using computer graphics, but it's still my art. It's still my, everything in it is stuff I made. And it it's computer art, but it looks very kind of photoreal. But I just gave it that edge of kind of a painting, very realistic sort of painting. But for the other gentleman, I actually did a full-on painting, and it's really nice to get commissions to do book covers. I really enjoy it, especially on this subject. Well, really, Whitley's, Betty Andreessen, Barney and Betty Hill, of course. Those are the 3 that really come to mind. I mean, Whitley's was, to me, the most moving for me personally, because I was at a point in my life where All my life, I knew I was different. All my life, I knew that I had a secret. All my life, I'd been seeing UFOs and unexplainable things were happening to me, but I never connected them all together until I read Communion. So Communion really changed my life. And then to only a few years later have Whitley call me up one night. And I thought he was someone pulling a joke on me. And we've been friends ever since is equally amazing. So, I just did some work for Whitley too. If you go to one of his presentations at the many conferences he's going to, you'll see CG, computer graphic animations of what the feet and hands look like on the grays, or certainly the visitor beings. And they're very accurate to one of the autopsies that was revealed recently that came out. There was it was a whole document of an autopsy. Also, Whitley's recollections of what they looked like, and my own, and that was really fun to do. Whitley and I often work together on things like that. I've done some book covers for him, 2 book covers so far, and I really enjoy doing that work, and I really enjoy doing it for him too. So he really appreciates it. Well, there are those who say we are born like this, and there are those that it just happens to one day. I think it's both. And originally, I used to think, well, no, if it happened to you at all, it's probably been happening all your life and you just don't realize it. Perhaps. But I have found that there are people that didn't have that, didn't have any sense of that at all. Maybe it's so buried that they just don't realize it. I don't know. But they'll be driving home one day and stuff happens, like Barney and Betty Hill. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't look into what was going on with Betty years afterwards, but I seem to recall that she later found out she had recollections of things happening to her. We don't know if it was happening to Barney too before that, but I can't be sure of that. So I suppose it is possible that you could be driving down the road one night and see something that shouldn't be there, and you stop and you get out and you walk into it, and from that point on, you're involved. I wouldn't rule that out. But again, you have to remember that I always strive to remember this, no matter when I'm in that situation or if it happens again or not, is that we are all the same. You might even lived a life on another world, more advanced than this one, a long time ago. You have no recollection of it, and so may they have as well. Because once we shed these fleshy overcoats, we are all the same. We're consciousness. And before the universe, I'm told, existed, there was consciousness. So it came first. Does that make it the egg or the chicken? I guess it makes it the egg. I'm sorry. I'm getting punchy. So we're getting towards the end of our hour here. Wow. I want to thank you all for coming in here after the show. I hope you'll enjoy the film. Oh, Jim Boyle's there. Hi, Jim. So yeah, she did have a long life. It amazes me too, because she really wasn't the most healthiest person in the world with the smoking and everything. But whether it was happening to them before that night or not, it certainly changed their lives and her life forever, and how we look at everything. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask of me after I babbled for an hour, now it's time to do it. And Kathleen Madden, her niece, talks about it. Oh yeah, I know that name. Oh, you did. Peace for all. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, I don't know what's going to be next. Benno's been rediscovering his abilities lately. Well, I certainly have been, and I think a lot of us have been. Again, in closing, and I know some of you just coming in now, I would highly recommend that you listen to the telepathy tapes. It's Mary put up the link before. It's on YouTube. It will change your life. I'm not kidding you. It will change your life. It will change how you see consciousness and yourself in ways you would never expect. And it's wonderful. But I warn you, things don't seem the same afterwards. So if you've never had this experience before with the visitors, this listening to these podcasts is probably the closest thing to it that I can think of, besides reading communion again, maybe. So, any other questions?
Don't look like it.
Don't look like it. No, it doesn't.
Okay, night night.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to sign off. I'm pretty.
Oh, wait a minute.
What's that?
Got one.
Oh,
Jim.
no, they have already intervened. They're doing it right now through us.
And you got another one that's really good.
No, there's not. Mary and I.
We're become teetotalers.
We become teetotalers. We don't drink much at all anymore. And
Once in a blue moon.
I might have a glass of red wine tonight. I think that expression, I deserve it. No, I've earned it. No, I just feel like it. Yes.
That's a good one.
The thing, I think most of us all through our lives, we're just not honest even to ourselves as much as we'd like to be. And I think that's also part of the evolution of consciousness, is to get away from the ego and get away from kidding yourself, and just being flat out doing the right thing and being honest and expressing as much love as you can.
And
because
love.
if you do that, as you will find, what has happened to these kids in the telepathy tapes, you will find that your abilities will return, and you will be able to be telepathic, and you will be able to fly the universe without a spaceship. It's amazing. So they drink my wife's family. We love you all too. I love you very much. And you guys have a great evening, and think about what I said. And
We'll see you next Friday.
yeah, we'll see you next Friday. And like I said, check out the telepathy tapes and check out Simon's book. I'm going to be on his podcast. Oh, Lynn, thank you. I'm going to be on his podcast soon. I will put up a link. His podcasts are wonderful. He's a wonderful human being, and this book will blow your mind. Good night.